All right, chat, we have another one from OmniarchTV. If you guys are not aware, him and I are best buds now. He commented on one of my videos saying thank you for reacting to it. So good guy. Make sure you come and subscribe to him, like his content as well. And we are going to be watching this one where he dives deeper into the Palworld lawsuit. We posted our video yesterday talking about how it's a W, it's a big win for the case, but it's just one battle won. There's going to be a huge war. They have 60 days coming with another amendment, and you know Nintendo's coming back with a fury. So the war's not over, but the battle was won for one little battle. So it's a big move for Palworld. So they got lucky, and we're gonna move on to here and see what he has to say. He does a deeper dive, so let's check it out.
There is a lot of misinformation going around right now regarding the legal battle between Nintendo and Palworld, and people are celebrating way too early. But one thing that is true is that Nintendo is furious, and not only are they furious about what just happened with their legal battle, but they're also furious about what just happened with Pokemon Legends ZA. New data just dropped 5 minutes ago, but look, their fight against Palworld is not going as planned, and the gaming community couldn't be any happier, because once Nintendo's legal department set its sights on Palworld, a lot of people feared the worst. But as time has gone on, this whole thing has really started to look like a David and Goliath situation, with Palworld being the heroic underdog against greedy Nintendo. But here's the truth: this latest update in their legal battle might not be as good as everyone is saying it is. You see, recent reports suggest that Nintendo and the Pokemon Company were essentially betrayed by the Japanese patent office, but really it's a lot more complex than that. So today we're going to dig a little bit deeper to figure out what exactly is going on. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Real quick, I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting the videos lately by using the new hype feature or dropping a like. The support on the channel has been insane lately, so all I can say is thank you. Okay, let's jump right in here. Nintendo's
Bro's been blowing up, man. Guys are like almost 20,000 subs now, so he's been killing it. He has been absolutely killing it. He's good content as well. So
patent relevant to the Palworld case has been rejected by Japan's office for lacking originality. What happens next? This headline is technically true, but it definitely leads people in the wrong direction, and we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. Japan's patent office rejects key Nintendo patent claim, potentially strengthening Pocket Pair's defense in the Palworld dispute. That's the key word right there, potentially strengthening Pocket Pair's defense, because the truth is that this technically isn't exactly related, and I'll dive into that in a little bit. But here we see the article goes on to say Nintendo's
it is for sure gonna be a strengthening of the case, because if they are throwing this out, like we said on the other video we did on our video, that they have other games they're citing that have similar stuff going on there, then it does kind of preemptively stop Nintendo, right? So it's a first time they've said no to Nintendo, so it is a step in the right direction. But like he said, it's not a win like a lot of people have been saying. Like, the lawsuit is not over. I saw some people on X saying it's over, we won, and it's definitely not won. It's still going. They have 60 days to come back, but it is the first step in a positive like defeat. It's the first baby step, so you have to take credit where credit is due, and this is a good positive move.
Ongoing legal campaign against Palworld developer Pocket Pair has hit another roadblock. See, again, that technically is not, it's like not really true. Okay, let's just continue. A key patent in Nintendo's monster capture family, one that sits right between two patents currently being asserted in the Tokyo District Court, has been rejected by the Japan Patent Office. The decision cites a lack of inventive step, pointing directly to older games such as Ark, Monster Hunter 4, Craftopia, Kantai Collection, and Pokemon Go itself as examples of.
The hilarious part is that they reference Pokemon Go in this lawsuit. That is like the funniest thing. A lot of people in the community have been laughing about that. In the comments, people are just making fun of Pokemon Go, how Pokemon Go is being used against Pokemon. It's actually pretty comical.
Of prior art for Xbox players following the saga, and especially fans who jumped into Palworld on Xbox Game Pass. This new twist adds even more weight to Pocket Pair's defense. It reinforces the argument that Palworld isn't necessarily copying Nintendo, but rather is inspired by and builds upon decades of established game mechanics. Now, this news was originally reported by Games Fray. This is kind of like the #1 source of information surrounding the Nintendo versus Palworld situation. They actually shared this yesterday, but I was visiting family, so I apologize for this video being a day late, but here's what GamesFray had to say. Nintendo's patent infringement litigation against Palworld maker Pocket Pair is still ongoing, of course. Nintendo clings to all sorts of theories to defend its patents against Pocket Pair's invalidity arguments, including the position that mods should not count as prior art. So here's what's new. A decision called Office Action, made by a patent examiner of the Japan Patent Office less than 2 weeks ago, casts serious doubt on the validity of 2 of Nintendo's 3 Japanese patents in suit. This is about pending application number 31879 that is a sibling of one of those anti-Palworld monster capture patents and the parent of another. And I think this is where some of the misinformation is going on right now, right? Because I see a lot of people online saying that, oh my god, this is a slam dunk win for Palworld, when in reality the patent in question here is actually not even one that they're using against Palworld or Pocket Pair. Now it's definitely related, which is why so many people are excited about this, but technically speaking, this is not a patent that is being used against Palworld. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. So realistically, this actually doesn't have any effect whatsoever on the current legal battle against Palworld, unless Palworld takes this new information and shows it to the court and says, hey guys, look at what they just said about this highly relevant patent that is not technically part of the lawsuit, but is like deeply intertwined in ways that can't be undone, right?
And I think that's what a lot of people are referencing and talking about. This is a patent that will help with the case. It helps. That's why they have to revise it, right? So they have to change it up, the wordings, they have to change up the way they do it. This is like, it's not like we said earlier, it's not the ultimate win that we're looking for, but it's a step in the right direction. You have this patent that is similar to the Palworld lawsuit that is being thrown out, is being attacked. So if that's being attacked, then the Palworld situation should be in the positive, right? So we have, like, there's a lot more that's going to be going on with this lawsuit. It's not nearly over, and you know Pokemon's going to come back with that new patent coming up here with they have the amendment here. You know they're coming with that amendment because, you know, honestly, they're not going to stop until they're told to stop. So they're going to try to burn Palworld into the ground financially. They would rather keep this lawsuit going for 10 years if they had to.
By the way, I am not a lawyer or legal professional, but Florian Mueller, who is the author of this article, I believe actually is, which is why we're using GamesFray as a source here. Now, going on, they say this sibling patent has been rejected on a non-final basis because the patent office, after a third-party submission of prior art, determined that the claimed technique lacked an inventive step. Okay, so a lot of legalese in that statement right there. So let me go ahead and break this down for you as best as I understand it, okay? Basically, the patent office said, hey, look, we are rejecting Nintendo's patent. This is not final. They can respond if they want to, but as of right now, we are rejecting it because a third party has submitted evidence that there are games that exist that came out before Nintendo filed this patent that makes this patent completely irrelevant, right? I mean, if you have a patent claiming that you invented these game mechanics, right, and you submit this patent in 2021, and we can find prior examples of video games that do the exact same thing, right? Well, then clearly the patent has to be rejected because, well, I mean, it's obvious, right? And this is what everybody has been saying all along. Like, if there are games that have,
if this is the patent that's like they're saying and they rejected it, right? If they approved it, they would have to go after those other games too, right? Those other games would be infringing on the patent if that's the case. So by rejecting this, that means that they have to now make it more of a Palworld directed lawsuit, because if these games already came out in the past that had it and Pokemon did not go after them for this case for a patent that was written later on, how is that possible? So they're going to have to make the amendments, like that's what's happening, that the amendment is going to have to go more targeted to the Palworld genre, which I believe is going to be hard to do, but we'll see.
Existed for decades that have all of the mechanics that Pokemon is trying to patent, then how could they possibly get a patent for these mechanics? It makes absolutely no sense. So the patent office is saying like, hey, look, all of these games, they have the same mechanics as the patent that you claim to have invented, therefore you lack the inventive step. You didn't actually do anything or provide anything of value here to earn this patent, therefore it is rejected. Now again, it is non-final, which means,
and if it is approved, then they would be able to go after those other companies, right? So this would just be a disgusting thing that would happen to the gaming industry. I don't know if Nintendo would actually go for those other games, but in theory, if they approve this for a Palworld lawsuit, they would have to, now it is approved for all those other games, you know. So that's why they're saying like, hey, this is already done, nothing happened before. These games were created before you. You can't take a patent from these games that already were before you. And if they were to approve it, then they could. So then that would just destroy everything, man. This lawsuit, if you're for Pokemon, if you're a Pokemon fan, this lawsuit should be something that you're paying attention to as well, because it's no longer like a Pokemon versus Palworld thing. This is a Nintendo versus the gaming industry. If Nintendo gets their way, they're going to be able to totally take over, man. They'll be able to just copyright whatever they want. They'll be able to tell you, hey, we have people running in that way. You can't make a character run that way or whatever. So this is a huge thing for the gaming industry. And if you want better games, you hope the Palworld wins.
Nintendo can further double down and they can further provide more evidence that they did in fact invent something here. But as of right now, the Japanese patent office is not convinced. The prior art references cited by the Japanese patent office include various games that predate Nintendo's December 2021 priority date, among them Studio Wildcard's Ark, Capcom's Monster Hunter 4, Pocket Pair's Craftopia, a Japanese browser game called Kantai Collection, and Pokemon Go. So what happens now? Nintendo now faces the choice between abandoning the embattled patent application or, which is the more likely next step, trying to persuade the patent examiner based on a modified patent application with amended claims. So basically what they're going to do is add claims to their patent and say, hey, look, this is actually specifically what we were talking about here, and they're going to try to push it through with more evidence on their end, I suppose. Also, when the process at the patent office is over, an appeal to a specialized court named Intellectual Property High Court is possible, right? So even if they amend this and it's rejected, it's still not over. Nintendo can still then appeal to a higher court. And additionally, the Japanese patent prosecution process has even been described as an endless loop. But the fact that the patent examiner is now looking at real world games as opposed to just patent documents and articles considerably ups the ante for Nintendo. And this is huge because I think one of the issues that the Japan Patents Office has been facing with this entire Palworld situation is that I don't know how many people at the Japan Patents Office actually play video games, right? Like maybe they do, and I don't know, like I'm just an American, right? Like what do I know? But if you go through any of these patent documents, it's pretty clear that it is stuffed full of legalese. It's just page after page of all of this like highly technical jargon, and really what it boils down to is just understanding what it actually implies for its use in video games. And that's why the entire gaming community, people like you and I, have been looking at these patents and saying this is actually insane. This makes no sense at all. There's no way that you can actually file a patent for going on a flying mount that turns into a ground mount. That makes no sense. That's been around since like World of Warcraft Burning Crusade, right? Like it's been a thing forever. But it's hard to like really pinpoint that when all you're looking at is all of these patents from decades past, right? And so now that the patent office is actually looking at real video games and is saying like, oh, okay, well clearly these video games do exactly what Nintendo is claiming to have done, so of course their patent doesn't make any sense. But remember earlier when I said that,
you know, he brings up World of Warcraft, and if you're not aware, World of Warcraft and the new expansion is removing pet battles because of this lawsuit, because they're scared of being sued by Nintendo. So if Nintendo wins, this is what we're talking about, that this has a major impact on not just Nintendo versus Palworld. This is going to be impactful to the whole genre of gaming. That Blizzard is just, they're just going to remove their pet battles because they don't even want any smoke. They don't want any issues with this. It's something that's crazy. And they've had that pet battle in there for a long time. And I've always thought to myself as well, like he brought up the flying mounts in World of Warcraft, like how can Nintendo be getting away with this when WoW has been having flying mounts for so long? Like it's kind of ridiculous. But we really need this thing to go away, and I don't think Nintendo will ever let this go away. I think what we're gonna have to do, honestly, is kind of like boycott Nintendo and get like the PR to get them to stop this, because like he said, it's going to be an endless loop of lawsuits and lawsuits, and this could go on forever. And it's already affected the game in multiple ways. And if we start pressuring Nintendo, because we know Nintendo does not like negative publicity, if we start giving some pressure towards them, they might change their narrative. They might be willing to change something. But that's the only way I think this is really going to go away, is that if Nintendo abandons the lawsuit because they're wasting too much money, it's taking too much time, and they know they're going to lose. And number four, we come in there and make them say, hey, if you guys don't stop this, we're done with you. That's the only way I think this is going to happen. But before we get back into the video, guys, I just want to say, if you guys are new to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you would like subscribe. We have our channel's doing really well. We do reactions on original content and just like drama on the culture, video games, stuff like that. But only like 5 of you are subscribed, and we're trying to get to the at least 1,000 mark first, and then we'll get to hopefully 10,000. But we're just trying to grind. So if you guys could please subscribe, I'd really appreciate that.
That there's been a lot of misinformation going around, and that people are celebrating way too early, and that really this doesn't actually have a direct effect on Palworld. Here's what GamesFrey has to say. For the avoidance of doubt, even if this Nintendo application fails, there is no direct impact on the Palworld patent case, period. However, there are wider ramifications. The rejected patent application is a key building block of Nintendo's monster capture patenting strategy that took aim at Palworld after its early 2024 release. It has the same parent application as 3117 and is the parent of 5191, both of which Nintendo is asserting against Palworld. Just like the applications that led to the patents in suit, this application was filed shortly after Palworld's release. An issue facing a central member of a patent family is often indicative of validity problems facing other members. The overlap between the invalidity contentions underlying the rejection and Pocket Pair's defenses makes it plausible that Pocket Pair could be behind an April 2025 submission to the Japan Patent Office in connection with this Nintendo patent application. So basically what they're saying here is like, wait a minute, the games that the patent office is now looking at as prior art or evidence that Nintendo didn't actually invent anything here has a suspicious amount of overlap with the exact list of games that Palworld submitted back in April, right? Now remember, earlier we said all this came from a third-party submission. We don't actually know who did it, but what they're suggesting here is that it's likely that the person that submitted this prior art was Palworld themselves, which again makes this whole thing a David versus Goliath situation, right? They were probably the ones that launched the stone that eventually cracked Nintendo's armor, and I love that. But here's what's important when it comes to Nintendo versus Palworld, okay? A Japan Patent Office decision, much less a non-final one like this one actually is not binding on presiding judge Motoyuki Nakashima, who is handling the Nintendo versus Pocket Pair case. But judges are legally trained and tend to have respect for the determinations made by patent examiners. Pocket Pair might—
You know, it's funny, we had a comment on one of our comment sections, and somebody said, you know what happened here is the judge he played Pokemon ZA, and after he played ZA he said, F this, man, I'm done, and he went and rejected the patent. It's not true, I'm sure that's not true, but that would be hilarious if it did happen that way. And you know, I had some other people say stuff in the comments too that really were good ideas of how, if the patent doesn't get thrown out, how Palworld could actually fight back. And I actually thought there's some good, they might be video worthy, to be honest. Instead of throwing the ball, they were saying you have a PAL gun, like a capture gun, and instead of throwing the Pokemon out or the Palmon out, you have a gun that shoots them out. So that might be a way that they could get away with this, because it's a gun game anyways. So instead of like just straight catching and throwing, you have like a little gun that you capture, and then it like shoots them out. And they already have that like bazooka PAL sphere thing. So I think they could, even if this patent is not fall apart, they could come out with something like that, I think, in the alternative.
Try to point the Tokyo District Court to relevant developments in the Japan Patent Office. In the United States, that would be called a request for judicial notice and can influence decisions. Now they go on to say that we assume that there will not be a decision of any kind in the infringement case before next year. The proceedings have been delayed, presumably due to what the next bullet point mentions. Nintendo's third patent in suit is also in trouble. They felt forced to seek a modification in the middle of litigation. Now
the capture patent that we just were talking about right here, there's 3 patents I believe they're trying to sue with, But out of the three, the strongest case that they have is the spheres. That Nintendo put that one the most effort into that one because they thought that one is going to be the one that is a nail in the coffin. But now with this amendment thing happening, it's kind of a good. It's like it is a W. It is something good because that is their strongest case that they have. So since this is now having to go back to the drawing board, they're gonna have to re-amend it in a way that falls into the category of Palworld only, not those other games now. This is a big thing. So we have this 3 patents, and the strongest one is now being questioned. So that is a positive for the whole entire case for Palworld, in my opinion.
We actually reported on this a few months ago. Nintendo just straight up changing their patents mid lawsuit, which is like insane that you can even do that. Check out my previous videos covering this topic if you want to see that. But anyway, if you want a visual representation of which patent is actually affected here, I don't speak Japanese, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say specifically, but according to GameSpray, application number 4842, which you can see right in the middle here, is one of the applications being used against Palworld, and application number 3560 is also what's being used against Palworld. And the one that is in question here that has basically been rejected, and they said, hey, you lack the inventive step, is the one in gray right here. So it is directly tied to the 2 patents that are being used against Palworld.
And a common question I've been getting about these patents, guys, are that what happens if Japan like throws them out? They're still the United States. Well, the United States, if you watch the last video, the one we reacted to his video, they talk about, or he talks about, how the patents are being kind of like, I think it was his video. No, it's another video we watched. How the patent office in the United States is more kind of corrupt, and they, instead of like doing their job, they were kind of just pushing it through because they know it's a lawsuit in Japan. So they're going with whatever the verdict is going to be because they don't want to get into, this is, theory now. This is not confirmed, but they don't want to upset Nintendo because they're getting a lot of money from them, right? A lot of benefits, like, like the Access Hollywood kind of reporters for Marvel Studios, how they don't want to critique Marvel because they want to get access to the actors, the movies and stuff. So it's kind of that situation with the US Patent Office. So they are kind of deferring to Japan. So whatever that happens in this lawsuit, the US Patent Office seems like they're going to just be following suit because they didn't even review this patent. They didn't even take the case. They just pushed it through because they didn't want to be involved with it. So they don't want to have any negative outlooks from the audience, and they don't want any negative backlash from Nintendo. So they just pushed it through, and whatever happens in Japan, it seems like they're just going to follow. So the question I've been getting a lot is, what happens with Japan? Well, if Japan wins, if they win in Japan, then they're probably going to be winning in the United States and globally.
And so logic would dictate that if this patent is invalid, then the patent that it gave birth to is probably invalid as well. And logically, you would also want to look up the family tree to see where the invalidity actually stems from, because if it's present here, there's a chance that it's present here as well. And so this is why I said earlier that there's a lot of misinformation going on about the Palworld case right now, because technically this patent is not part of the lawsuit whatsoever, but it has implications, right? And I think that's where the misinformation comes from. So I've seen people go on to say like, oh my god, this patent getting rejected is like, it's over for Nintendo, Palworld won, GG everybody, and everyone's celebrating in the streets, right? When in reality, technically this has no direct effect on the case whatsoever. It's just really strong implications for what is about to come in the future. But as this article states, we're probably not going to get an update until next year, right? And we're at the end of October.
And like I said in my video too, like we started the video saying it's over for Palworld, they won, blah blah blah, but then we go into detail saying, hey, this is just a battle, it's not the war, and we have a lot further to go here. So there are a lot of people who are overreacting to this, but I think it's kind of like a overreaction that is justifiable, because for once Nintendo has been said no to. Nintendo is losing something like this. So I do think a lot of people are getting a little too hyped, but it is a step in the right direction. Like if we have 2 paths here, we're taking the path to Palworld winning. We've taken a couple steps there. Maybe it's 2 steps forward, 3 back, who knows? But this being a lawsuit until next year seems a little concerning in my opinion, because Palworld is supposed to be coming out next year, like the full version. So I wonder how that's going to affect the release of Palworld. I'm not sure if they're going to have to wait until Palworld's lawsuit is done. I would assume they would, so they could re-up the Poke Spears or the Pal Spears mechanics, because if they win, they'll add it back in. You know, they only took it away because they had to for the lawsuit. They preemptively did that so they could say, hey, we're different.
When this news finally broke. So now, just to be clear, let's actually cover what specifically this patent was, right? Like, what are we even talking about here? Okay, this patent is one of the patents that Nintendo filed regarding the capturing of monsters in video games. Okay, and it's not just the fact that you capture monsters, right? Like, that's just merely an idea, and that has existed forever, right? I mean, people in real life have been capturing monsters for as long as we've been alive, right? Like, there's 2 cats in my house. I've captured these monsters. Like, am I going to jail now, Nintendo? Like, what's going on here? Okay, no. This patent is very specific on how you capture.
I don't know. Can you guys hear my monster? She has the zoomies back there, so I'm like trying to entertain her with the laser while I watch and listen. I don't know if you guys could hear her, but she's a monster.
For monsters in video games. Okay, so the patent claims that first you have to hit a monster with a specific item that will change the monster's status to paralysis, for example. Okay, when you paralyze the monster, it becomes incapacitated. Okay, and once the monster is in that state, the player then throws a special item referred to as a pod in this specific patent, in other words a Pokeball, okay, towards the monster to either capture it or to start a final battle to secure it. Okay, so that is what this patent is claiming. It is not just the capturing of monsters, it's the battling, it's the weakening, it's the changing of the state of the monster to paralysis or some other state. It's the fact that the monster is easier to capture in that state, and the fact that you then will capture the monster by throwing a Pokeball at it. Okay, that's kind of like the top-down layman's understanding of what this patent is, and the patent that was actually rejected,
which is interesting because Pokemon slowly seems to be moving from that process anyways. Like in Pokemon Go, Let's Go Pikachu Go, or whatever it's called, and even in Arceus, and even in Scarlet and Violet, even in ZA, you're not required to battle them. You could actually catch them now with just throwing the Pokeballs. Like, it used to be what he said, you throw out your Pokemon, you would battle them, and then you'll catch them. But now it's kind of different. Now you don't even have to battle if you don't want to. It's advised sometimes, but like in Arceus, you could just sneak up and throw a ball and catch them. In ZA, you could just sneak up and catch them. So this patent is not even being 100% fulfilled within the game genre anymore. It's starting to change to a new mechanic and everything like that. So, and then this is why those other games are implied in this lawsuit, is because Monster Hunter, you weaken a monster, you put a trap, it paralyzes them, you capture them, you use your trap box. Like, all these other games do the same thing. You have to weaken the monster and catch them. So I guess Digimon, I was gonna say Digimon as well, but Digimon, you actually have to defeat them to get the data and like the time strangers. So maybe that one is not the same, but they all pretty much fall in that category. So it's like, how can you patent that process? It's stupid. Now, if you were to get them for the Pal Sphere specifically, I feel like it's a stronger case because of Pokeball, a Pal Sphere, but this whole thing is just so dumb.
Here was one that connects the 2 patents together that are being used in the Palworld lawsuit. Okay, honestly, I think one of the strongest arguments against this patent is Monster Hunter 4, which came out in Japan in 2013. And as you can see here from the official web manual, okay, this website is actually the game manual as presented by Capcom. This is capcom.com, the makers of Monster Hunter 4. As you can see, they describe the monster stamina can be drained with certain actions and attacks. Furthermore, you can use certain weapons and items to hit monsters with abnormal statuses. So they go on to say poison, paralysis, sleep, stun, blinded, etc. You could also use a shock trap or a pitfall trap to hinder the monster's movement. You can even use trank bombs or trank shots to incapacitate the monster as well. And then of course you can trap the monster. Now, all of that sounds exactly like the patent that Nintendo tried to file. And forgive me, I don't know for certain here, so you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but this patent was filed in either 2021 or 2024, right? And so you can't be claiming to have invented these things when you've got a game, Monster Hunter, from 2013 that does all of the bullet points on your list of things, which is like, dude, and that's just the easiest one where we can find an official game manual online. Like, there's other examples of games that do this exact same thing. And so really, it's a huge relief that Nintendo is taking a massive L here, because they are in the wrong objectively. They are trying to manipulate the entire gaming sphere into obeying with what they want, when in reality they're just patenting ideas that have been around for decades, which is insane. This is legal warfare.
And you can see why people are saying this is like Palworld 1, how they're overreacting, right? Because everything he's just saying about this patent is negated if you have a little common sense. So that's why a lot of people are excited about this, because now Palworld has to come back and amend it. And like I said, what I think they're going to have to come back and to even have a case to amend it, I think what they're going to have to amend it as is specifically the PAL spheres. That's what they have to go after. But even then, they could just change it to a PAL square, you know, like just change it to a square, not a ball. So instead of throwing a ball, you throw like a little square that like sucks them into it or something, like a box. So who knows what's going to happen.
Thank God it looks like so far they are not getting away with it, because the problem with this legal warfare is that if Nintendo can strong arm gaming companies and force them to change their games or not do something similar to a Pokemon game, what that's going to do is reduce the amount of competition across the board, right? We're going to have fewer games like Pokemon, even though Pokemon didn't even invent Pokemon. You understand? Like, there's been monster catching mechanics in games forever, and decreased competition leads to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company getting lazy. And there is no better example of this than Pokemon Legends ZA. We've talked about this on the channel for the past week or two, and the truth is that Pokemon Legends ZA is incomplete. It's lazy. It is unoriginal. The art direction is horrible. The graphics are horrible. The game runs at a terrible frame rate on the Switch 1. The map is small. It's genuinely a joke, right? Like, the core Pokemon fan base they're gonna praise it because they don't think about anything logically. They're just gonna praise it because it's Pokemon, right? But the broader gaming community is all pointing and laughing like, oh my god, they're still playing garbage, right? Because the games look like they came out at the end of the PS2 life cycle, right? Like, I said this before and I'll say it again, with enough tinkering and optimization, you could probably get Legends ZA to run on the Wii, like Wii hardware, maybe even GameCube hardware, right? And earlier in the video, I said that Nintendo is actually furious about what just happened with Pokemon Legends ZA, and that is because week 2 sales data just came out of Japan, and it is a bloodbath, ladies and gentlemen. Pokemon got absolutely obliterated in its second week. What we can see here, this report covers October 20th to October 26th, and Famitsu published that Pokemon Legends ZA for the Nintendo Switch sold 195,000 units in Japan, and Legends ZA Switch 2 edition sold a further 72,000 units for a grand total of 267,000 retail copies in its second week, which sounds like a big number because conventionally it is, but let me remind you, week 1 it sold 1.48 million retail copies.
That's a massive drop. So all those people who've been saying ZA is not a flop, where are you now? Where are you now?
So what does that mean? That means Pokemon Legends ZA saw an 82% sales reduction week over week. Sales actually just collapsed. And I know that I use that term in my titles and in my thumbnails, right? But that is objectively what just happened. Pokemon Legends ZA completely failed to sustain its strong sales numbers with an 82% reduction in sales. So what does this mean? Well, I think the answer is abundantly clear. All of the Pokemon fanboys bought the game on day one, and once the reviews came out and everyone saw how absolutely garbage the game was, there wasn't a massive second wave of people who ended up picking up the game through word of mouth. That is typically what you would expect, right? If a game comes out, there's a hype.
And what company has been having that happen to lately? Let's just think. I was literally fighting with somebody on my comment section today about this company. Which company is having that same effect? I'll give you a second to think. Think hard. It's another company that has just destroyed themselves like Nintendo's doing. If you said Marvel, yes, you're correct. Marvel recently has been producing these crappy movies, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, that are so top heavy for the first opening weekend. And then after that, week 2, week 3, drastic drops. So all these hardcore fanboys are going and supporting the first week, right? And then they're raging that nobody, a bunch of trolls, haters, blah, blah, blah. And then the following week, the sales drop tremendously. So we are seeing another correlation to Disney here with Nintendo. Pokemon and Disney are like becoming the same kind of brand. And somebody was arguing with me that no, Nintendo and Disney aren't the same. It's more like EA and Blizzard. Yeah. Well, for their greed, yes. Disney, but with Disney's practices, Nintendo is becoming just like that. But for the greediness, yes, I agree. They're becoming like EA and Blizzard where they don't care about their games, they just care about money. But their actual way they interact with the fans, the appreciation and respect for the fans, Disney. And you see similarities almost all the time now.
Period for it, right? And then once it comes out and everyone's like, oh my god, the game is so good, and then word of mouth spreads it even farther, right? And you have, you know, it not the exact same number of sales on week 2, but it's a drop off for sure. But it's not an 82% drop off, right? What actually happened here is the game came out, the fanboys gobbled down the slop and tried to gaslight the entire internet into saying that the game was good, but everyone who looked at this game objectively was like, wait a minute, that looks like trash. I'm not spending my $70 on that game. Absolutely not. Now, if we look at the exact same data for Pokemon Legends Arceus, what you'll see is that in Japan, Legends Arceus sold 1.42 million retail sales in the first week. The second week, it sold 359,000. So again, a huge drop off, but that is a 75% reduction compared to Legends ZA's 82% reduction. And if you watched my previous videos, you'll know that Japan was like the #1 region that was the most hyped for Legends ZA. You could see that it was abundantly clear.
And the data showed that was the best opening week compared to Legends Arceus. So all globally, we saw decreases everywhere, but in Japan it seemed pretty similar
in the Google Trends search data. And so if the sales numbers are starting to look worse for Japan, and we already see that the sales numbers are worse in other regions in terms of the UK, in terms of Europe, in terms of Spain, and even globally Legends ZA is selling worse, it seems like the trajectory is starting to be finalized and the outcome is inevitable. The game is going to ultimately sell worse than Legends Arceus because the game is worse. I think it's literally the Pokemon fanboys make all of these excuses for, oh, it's this, that, or the other thing. I even had somebody in my comments say it was Trump's fault. Bro, I'm not even kidding. People's brains are broken. They said it was Donald Trump's fault that Pokemon Legends ZA sold.
Oh no, not Trump again, man. Dang it. He's in Pokemon? What's the Trump Pokemon called? Oh my god. I don't know, the raccoon or the otter looking dude. What's his name? I don't know. I can't remember right now. But you know what I'm talking about, the Trump Pokemon.
Worse, right? And if you want to like extrapolate out some loose correlation to tariffs and people are broke now, like, okay, maybe, right? Maybe, but it's just like people have lost their minds, right? Why don't we just apply Occam's razor and understand that maybe the game sold worse because the game is worse? It seems like a pretty fucking logical conclusion to come to me. I don't know, but really, I'm gonna keep getting gaslit by the Pokemon community.
Again, another similarity to Disney. You know, EA and Blizzard, people crap on them all the time, and I don't see anybody coming and defending them like, I'm the White Knight coming for you. Like, I don't see any of that for EA and Blizzard. But when it comes to Disney, the White Knights show up like in droves, dude. And it's the same thing with Pokemon. Another Disney correlation.
Everyone's gonna say I'm a hater when I'm just looking at the numbers and looking at the game, and it's like, what universe are you guys in? Yeah, the game sold well, but it sold worse than the most recent games, and the trajectory is clear, and the game is visibly and observably not good. Like, what are we talking about? And this is precisely why we're covering the Nintendo and Pokemon Company legal battle against Palworld, because Palworld has to win, because if they don't win, Nintendo will get even more comfortable with producing as much lazy slop garbage as they can, and we're going to be getting games just like Legends ZA, if not worse, down the pipeline, because they won't have any competition. And so I wanted to cover that in today's video because I was just so happy to see how hard the sales collapsed for the Japanese market for Pokemon Legends ZA, and really that was just the icing on the cake after yesterday's announcement that Nintendo's application was rejected by the Japan Patent Office, because while this doesn't directly affect the lawsuit, it will absolutely have implications. And of course Palworld and Pocket are going to take this patent office decision and bring it to the Tokyo court and say, guys, look, hey, look, I mean, come on now, like what's going on here? Like, it's going to be really hard for the judge to ignore this obvious reality in front of them. And so things are not looking good for Nintendo, and thank God for that, because maybe one day, this is my ultimate goal. Okay, here's my ultimate. If you guys want to know my motivation, you want to know why I'm making these videos, is it because I'm a Pokemon hater? No, this top shelf right here, I've talked about this before, this entire shelf is all the older Pokemon games, every single one of them. Okay, I've played them all, I've beaten them all, I've completed the Pokedex for probably half a dozen of them, if not more. I love Pokemon. My goal is to wake enough people up to realize that you have to stop spending money on Pokemon if we ever want to get another good Pokemon game again. And
that's what the fanboys don't understand. All of us who are so angry right now and so vocal about this, we are diehard fans. Like, I don't want to say I'm a bigger fan than you and I'm a real fan and you're not a real fan if you like ZA. I don't want to go there, but I am a deep hard Pokemon fan. I have the TCG, I have graded cards, I have played every Pokemon game except for, well, I bought them all actually. I've bought every one of them. I just haven't enjoyed all of them and played them all the way through. Scarlet and Violet, I stopped. Sun and Moon, I stopped. What else? The Let's Go Pikachu thing, I bought it, stopped halfway through. But every other game I've beaten. Every other game I've 100% maxed out the Pokedex. I have done shiny hunting. I have a Pokemon Home that's full of shinies. I have a Pokemon Go account that it's not as full of shinies as I wish it was, but you know, I played everything. I've been involved with Pokemon since I was a child. I remember the Costco Pokemon Yellow edition that I got for Christmas and how excited I was for that. You know, so we are just talking about this because we love the franchise so much. And we didn't just jump into the franchise the last couple series or whatever. We've been in it for deep, long time. We're highly invested. So we really love this franchise. So when you see videos like this and like that, like it's just crazy to see that there's so many shills for this slop game. And if we keep buying it, they'll never improve. That's why we need Palworld to win. That's why we need to convince people to stop buying crap. And we will get better Pokemon games. That's why Pokemon is fighting this. They want to be able to put less effort into their games, the least amount of effort into their games, and still make max profit. They don't want to have to put $150 million in a Pokemon game. They don't want to have more developers on the Pokemon game. They want to put in $10 million and make, you know, $600 million. They don't want to put in $200 million and make 800 and make the same kind of profit. You know, they want just the maximum money, and we cannot allow that anymore. And again, I will redirect this to the Disney fans. The Disney fans will defend Disney and eat that slop no matter what. And it seems like they are the same kind of type people who are defending Pokemon.
Seeing these different cracks in the armor of Nintendo fills me with joy, because eventually maybe the Pokemon fans will actually get what we deserve. It's the most valuable franchise in the world. Can't they try a little bit to release a good game? Like, what is going on here? I want to see their sales collapse even farther. I want to see Palworld walk away victorious in this legal battle. That way, maybe one day in 5 or 6 or 7 years, when Nintendo gets their shit together and they've gotten their ass beat for the last half a decade, maybe they will finally realize that the way to actually succeed as a gaming company is not by having a massive legal department, but it's by actually releasing quality games, which is what they used to do. But they haven't done that for the Pokemon franchise since, I would argue, the 3DS. I thought Sword and Shield was okay, but it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't mind-blowing. It was just fine. Anyway, if you
Yeah, Sword and Shield was mid, but it was still a game that I did beat. Unlike ZA and I didn't play ZA, but unlike Scarlet and Violet was just trash. But all right, guys, well, that's the video. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this. This is some major news, and like it's, after watching him talk about it, you don't think it's as big as a win, but in my opinion, I think it is still a pretty big win. We are not we're not at the end of the finish line yet. We're not there, but it is a good start. We're on the right direction, the right track, and really, this is a, you know, to have Nintendo panic is great. That's all I gotta say. To have Nintendo be panicking and upset is great. So this is a good time for people. You know what would be honestly be interesting too is to see how many copies of Palworld sold, because it seems like this failure of ZA and these videos and stuff. Like I've just been seeing his comments, my comments, other people's comments. So many people praising Palworld and like going out and buying it for the first time, buying a second copy, buying it for a friend. I would love to see how much Palworld has sold in the time period between ZA's release and right now, because I wouldn't be shocked. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if Palworld sold a decent amount of copies in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of this failure of ZA. And that just shows you the correlation of failed Pokemon and competition getting better. And we have a lot more pocket creature catching games coming out, like Anemo next year. So I can't wait for that. I'm really excited for that one. So, all right, guys. So make sure you guys like and subscribe for more reactions, original content, and just culture drama, culture news, gaming drama. And then we stream on Twitch, and yeah, appreciate you guys. And make sure you guys come and like and subscribe to him as well. Show the original creator some love as well. So thank you guys so much. I love you all. Bye.